Hello, everyone. Okay, let's figure out how to score one complete source on the DAPPR test. So I'm going to be using this rubric right here. I will be bopping back and forth between tabs to kind of show you. But the first thing we want to do is figure out our date, right? So we need to figure out when it was published and then we'll score it. So I'm looking at an article called Prescription Opioid Use and Misuse Among Adolescents and Young Adults in the U.S., a National Survey Study. Let's see when it was published. Does it tell us? Look at this. Published November 5th, 2019. So it's pretty recent. It was published in, not in the last 5 years, but in the last 10 years for sure. Let's figure out, does it seem timely still? Does something in 2019 feel timely about the prescription opioid use and misuse among adolescents in the U.S. in the United States? Adolescents and young adults in the U.S. And I would say the information's not out of date, but considering how the opioid crisis changes every year, it seems, I might give this a 2, right? The information is not out of date, but we might be able to find more recent information on this particular topic. If we were looking at kind of a history of the opioid crisis, that would definitely still be a 3, right? It would still be considered recent and up to date. But if we want to figure out current causes of drug use for young adults in the U.S. or current information about the opioid crisis in the U.S., this would not be as up to date as it could be, right? We might be able to find something more recent. So I think I'm going to give it a 2 for the date. Now let's move on to author. This is one of those really nice ones where we don't have to Google our author because we have our author affiliations lifted up front. So it looks like our affiliations for these folks are that they work at the Division of Emergency Medicine at Boston's Children's Hospital. Okay. So it seems like this person would have, or these people, it seems like multiple, all of them actually work there or are affiliated there. So they know about emergency medicine, which is really important for opioid overdoses, right? And they work at in a children's hospital, right? So young adults, they would have more information about them. They work for the Departments of Pediatrics and Emergency Medicine at Harvard Medical School. Well, that's fancy. And again, feeling very good about that. They work at the Pediatric Therapeutics and Regulatory Science Initiative Computational Health Informatics Program, also at Boston Children's Hospital. So even though we have not gone in to confirm what these folks have their degrees in, I'm going to guess they are doctors or PhDs of some kind, or, medical doctors probably, who have tons of research and experience in this topic. For the sake of this video and not trying to keep it too long, I'm not going to Google them to find out more, but I always think it is nice to go ahead and Google more. In the case of there being multiple authors like this, I would probably focus on the first one. So now let's figure out, oh, sorry, I did not. I forgot to rate it, right? So we have author, who's the author? We figured that out. What makes them an expert? They work for Harvard and a children's hospital. They are very fancy. I think that they show they are experts. So we had a 2 and now we have a 3. So right now we're looking at 5 points. Let's look at the publisher. Who is the publisher and are they reputable? Okay, so our publisher here, you can see at the top, is PLOS Medicine. It may also give us more information over here. No, it's just giving us PLOS. This one's actually giving us a link to the article in the journal. So we can go ahead and click on that. Here it is. And let's look at PLOS. This is a particular journal. We're going to go to About. Excuse me. Oh, journal information. An influential venture for research and commentary on the major challenges to human health worldwide, PLOS Medicine publishes articles of general interest on biomedical, environmental, social, and political determinants of health. The journal emphasizes work that advances clinical practice, health policy, or pathophysiological understanding to benefit health in a variety of settings. Awesome. So, one thing I will note is that it says that they have, let me find it here, transparency in the review and publication process. I'm going to click on that and look at that editorial and peer review process. It looks like they do they do put all of their articles through the peer review process. Now, in our databases, you are often able to limit by peer-reviewed articles, so sometimes you know going in whether or not your article is peer-reviewed, but here it's extra nice to double-check. It is peer-reviewed, and we see that they do normally publish information about human health, which is what the opioid epidemic is related to, right? So I'm feeling very good about both the author and the publisher. So I would give the publisher a 3. So far we have a 2, a 3, and a 3. Let's take a look at the purpose. Why was it published? The best option would be to add to the existing research on this topic, empirical research without biased sponsors. So let's take a look. We figure that out by looking at the abstract. This abstract is quite long, but we see that they say, in this study we evaluated past year prevalence of prescription opioid use and misuse among adolescents and young adults. Also at the top it says there is inadequate recent data on the prevalence of additional drug abuse among those misusing prescription opioids, meaning they're noticing there's a gap in the research, and they said, what kind of research can we do to address that gap in the research? And this is the results of that research. So to me that sounds like the definition of adding to the existing research on this topic, right? Let's check the unbiased part, right? If you watched the video about purpose and bias in funding, you will know what I'm talking about. But what's really nice is that in this one really shows us a lot of information. Right here it says funding, FTB is supported by the Borough's Welcome Fund, grant number, whatever this is, the funders had no role in the study. So that means that there was a grant that funded this, but grants typically are a little less problematic than a company funding something, and the funders did not do anything in this study, which is really, really helpful. We can also scroll to the very bottom to see if there is any information like about the it says author contributions. It doesn't say anything about any other kinds of conflict of interest or external sources of funding. So in this case, it sounds like we are golden, and we could give this a 3. Okay? So finally, relevance. Does this source contain well-researched information that directly supports your research and fits your research, your information needs? So if you watched the video about relevance, this is actually the article that I chose out of looking at 5 or 6 different articles, all on the overall topic of what are the causes of drug use in young adults in the U.S., and this was perfect for it. So this one is a very relevant article to that particular topic. Obviously, relevancy is going to change depending on what your topic is and what kind of information you need. So that one can get a little, it's really up to you and what you're looking for. So now we know, I think we got 3s in everything except date, right? So we can go 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 14. So we'll come down here to the scoring guide. We're looking at 13 to 15 points being an excellent source for college level research. So I hope that makes sense to everyone about how you can go ahead and put all the pieces of the DAPPR test together. The first time you do it, it might take you a few minutes, but once you have the hang of this, this should not take you more than 5 or 10 minutes like it just took me explaining to you all right now. Happy evaluating!